All right, everybody, it is 7 o'clock on March 4th. I'm going to call to order the East Lyme Inland Wetland Agency meeting. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so just to go through who everybody is. We have Phyllis Berger, Doreen Ryan, I'm Kristen Chantrell. We have Don Thimister, Ryan Williams, Greg McIntyre, Gary Gacious, our Inland Wetland Agent, and Sue Svang. We have also Ann Chichello from the Board of Selectmen. And we have
one alternate in the audience, you can see them, Carlo
Lombardo. If you want to join us up here, you can be seated today. And there's a new alternate, Robin Volpini on the list.
Volpini, yeah, she could not make it this evening. She was not aware that she was just appointed, so I guess between the paperwork getting down to my office in this meeting,
okay,
it's kind of just overlap. But I sent her the agendas, the calendar year, and the annual calendar.
Yep. Okay.
Did some of our other alternates leave, or
they're full? We have Leonard, right? So Carlo also was just appointed as an alternate.
yes?
So Leonard just has a personal matter that he's dealing with, and understandably he cannot make it. So our alternates will be seating. So
No, but there was another alternate. I don't think he was. Yeah.
John
I think there was like a
Vilcek.
few alternates.
Oh, Vilcek. Yeah, Vilcek is on
No, so
the,
there was another person
oh,
too.
sorry.
But
it's Tom, wasn't it? Tom,
yeah, Clell.
oh, yeah.
no, he resigned.
Oh.
He was a regular member.
He was?
I think he was.
I think he was an alternate too. Yeah.
So maybe he was for a brief while, but okay.
At any rate, yeah, that was.
Can you just confirm that Mr. Lombardo was sworn in to the
Were you,
town office?
yeah, were you sworn in?
Were you sworn in at the?
Yes.
You went to the town clerk's office, you got all your paperwork? Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Thanks.
Do we have an addition to the agenda today?
No, I don't have
No.
any additions
No
to the
additions.
agenda.
Okay. No.
I have material under correspondence.
Okay, perfect. All right, so then next would be public delegations. Public delegations is the time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters. Issues or concerns related to approved wetland permits and in-house proposals or general topics of discussion are open to comment. Agenda items, referrals, applications subject to a decision by the commission, a public hearing or litigation may not be discussed. Anyone here? Okay. No public hearings today. The acceptance of the minutes. So before we do that, I do want to note that in section 4, the call for public delegations, it says the second statement about Don Danila stated that the estimate that over 100 acres, it was actually Gary estimated of 100 acres. Don didn't commit to a actual acreage number. So under section 4, yeah, you see it. So it wasn't Don that said that, it was Gary. Other than that, I didn't have any other changes. So do I hear a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 7th, 2025?
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Do I hear a second?
Just second that.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. Great. Moving right along, ex officio report. Ann?
Good evening, Ann Chichello, ex officio from the Board of Selectmen. So the past few meetings, actually been long meetings, 4, 5, 6 hours at a clip. We've been doing budget deliberations, so we're in the midst of doing that. I was also involved in a capital improvement program committee, so any capital items that would be on the in the budget, we've had a committee review everything in detail. We went and we visited the different places also. So we went to the town hall, we went to like Public Works and the transfer station, we went all around town so we could actually see, you know, what was needed, what needed maintaining, that kind of thing. So that's been really, really helpful. February 14th, I attended a ribbon cutting for a Nightjar cannabis dispensary, which just opened up in East Lyme. And what's really impressive about this is it's all a women-owned dispensary. So I went and attended that. Also, on zoning, I didn't attend, but I did review the notes because I thought it was important. On February 20th, 2025, they had a vote on the moratorium, which is the 830G. So they voted in favor of having that. Now, Attorney Blaisdell, and I'm just going to pull up my notes on it because I can't remember this, spoke about it. And this is on the 830G appeals moratorium. He clarified that the moratorium would apply to the appeals rules only. It is not a moratorium on 830G applications. Currently, the appeals process puts the burden of proof on the commission to defend itself should the decision be challenged in court. The commission, meaning the zoning commission, cannot simply deny an application because it does not meet the East Lyme zoning regulations because it sets a higher standard. So a moratorium would essentially get rid of all special treatment in the appeals process and would allow the commission to treat an affordable housing application just like any other application. So basically it could apply the East Lyme zoning regulations to any affordable housing applications. As it stands now, the commission itself, the zoning commission, does not apply for the moratorium. They approved it and then sent it on. It has to go to the first selectman, who is the one who can actually apply for it. I did speak to the first selectman, and he said that he is going to put it on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen in the next few weeks. So he wants to get our input just to see what the other Board of Selectmen members think. So that also, this 830G, the land use department, as far as I know, if I'm not mistaken, Gary, has been working on this for about the past year to get all the information in order, and it had to go through the attorney. So this has been a very long process. I don't know if Gary can add to that, but that's what I know. So
Long, arduous process. But Janet Sutherland has done most of the work in the office. I assembled all the developments with affordable housing and the current numbers. She verified it all. It's been a bit of a headache, but it got us back on track. We now know every affordable housing development that needs to be reporting to us, so now we can ensure that process gets started. So it's been a benefit all around, although it's taken a long time, over about close to a year, if not more, right?
yeah, it's been a long time. So thank you for all your hard work. So are there any questions?
I don't have a question specifically about that, but
Okay.
I have a question. On the Board of Selectmen agenda, maybe like 2 months ago, there was an agenda that was modified, and at one point it said that the Twin Valley Lake subdivision was being considered the open space to be provided to the Sportsman's Club. I
Okay.
don't know if there was discussions about that. It was on the agenda, but then it got removed from the agenda.
I remember it being on it, but I don't think it was ever discussed that I can remember. Do you know anything about that, Gary?
I'd have to, as far as the agendas go, I couldn't say whether it was or wasn't on the agenda because I didn't see either of those. I know there's been discussions. I had requested that the Board of Selectmen place on their agenda the acceptance of the open space for the Twin Valley Lake subdivision.
Well, because I questioned because the subdivision was allowed to have smaller properties because they provided open space to the town.
Yeah.
So if you gave that to the Sportsman's Club, it's now not usable open space. So,
Right now, the open space is in escrow, and it's we're waiting. The town has to accept it. So I prepared a motion to go with it. My understanding is after the town attorney reviewed it, There was nothing wrong with the motion, it's just we need two more motions, one for the easement as well. So I wasn't thinking that we needed a motion to accept the easement, it would just be filed because it's an easement versus the town actually having ownership. We would just have a control in that easement, so a say as to what goes on, versus having title. So, but nonetheless, they're working on two more motions for the and I think the third motion is for the acceptance of the road, but the road hasn't been completed yet. But it sounded like after my discussions with the town attorney that they said, why don't we just do this all at once? When we accept the road, that's what we've done in the past. We've accepted the open space at the same time. It's fine with me. We have a bond in place, so everything's, I'm just saying, the open space is available now. Take it.
Yeah, well, I was just
Go
confused
get it.
with the discussions with the Sportsman's Club were involved because it's not usable if you're gonna get shot. So, it was just,
I
it
don't,
was a condition of the development because it was allowed to be a smaller, it's not fitting with what the current neighborhood is, so.
and
It's
you're
not
saying,
1 acre lots.
and are you saying it's supposed to be given to the sportsman club?
No, well, that's what the agenda, I didn't see it, a neighbor contacted me,
Okay,
that it was for discussion on the agenda at one point.
okay.
on the
I'll
Board of
look it up and
Selectmen.
see what's
So
going
I don't know
on.
I don't know any details about it, but I was just wondering if you knew anything about it because
I
I thought that was.
I think it was on. I don't know if it was.
I
I
do
don't
know
think
the
it was.
Sportsman's Club is interested in the land because it abuts their land.
Yeah.
I think the price tag on it was too great for them to acquire it.
Yeah.
That they were willing to pay anyway.
But that the caveat of the subdivision is that has to be usable open space for the subdivision. to
Correct.
be-
The easement that was approved by the planning commission has to be upheld.
Mhm. Yeah. I was just curious if
That's-
there was.
Yeah, I'll
what the
find out.
rules were.
I'll see what else I can find out about it. If it, so I don't really know.
Mhm.
I don't remember having any motions on it. You
Well,
know what I
I
mean?
think it was removed from the agenda, and
Yeah.
maybe that's why, because
There's issues with that.
there's
yeah.
issues
Yeah.
with that. So
Mhm.
I just wasn't sure. I don't think it was ever actually discussed, but I know it was
Yeah,
on
I
the
don't
agenda
think
at
so
one
either.
point.
Yeah.
So as far as the item coming up back on the Board of Selectmen agenda, it's really, I was looking for acceptance of the open space. That's,
Owned by the town?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why the Board of Selectmen, per the subdivision regulations, Board of Selectmen has to accept it, otherwise it's not technically held by the town. It's interesting.
Because we've had that issue before on another. There was an open space that was never actually
Conveyed.
conveyed.
Right. We've had parcels in town that the town's treated and taxed as open space, essentially, and yet they weren't conveyed, and the developers come back in looking to get the parcel developed. So, yeah, we've run into that a couple of times, still running into that on some of these parcels.
Any other questions?
I just have a question.
Sure.
I saw it on Facebook or something, but we approved recently a building near Costco, and someone had said it's going to be a data center. Did anybody hear about that? No?
Yeah, I did.
I heard it was going to be Whole Foods.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
My wife mentioned it to me that it's supposed to be the data center now. And I was like, wow, that's quite a change.
Is that considered light industrial? Isn't
No,
that what it was supposed to be?
It's zoned gateway commercial, so it's part of the gateway. We have a master development plan that was approved, which my last discussions with Mr. Mulholland, and I believe there is some correspondence that he may have generated to the applicant during the application process that said it was a prohibited use based on what they were proposing. 30 some odd tractor trailer docking stations and
Yeah,
parking
that I
spaces.
remember, yeah.
I think their response was that they were going to apply for a zoning regulated text amendment. I've yet to see that application come forward, so I don't know that in fact is going to happen.
So in other words, to put a data center there, they'd have to have a text amendment? Is that what you're saying, or?
Yeah, I don't believe that would be a permitted use in the zone.
Okay.
Again, I'm not the
Yeah.
zoning official or the
Yeah.
zoning commission.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
So
Yeah.
I think there's certainly at the end of the day, they still need site plan approval, even for the building that this commission reviewed. So they haven't made that application either.
Okay,
So
so we just have to wait and see what they do. Yeah. Okay.
So rumor mill, so,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
thanks. Let's see, next we have no new business. Under pending applications, we have 78 Flanders Road, Siddhartha Kalita applicant, Maria Rosa owner, application for the construction of a new single-family dwelling and 20-foot by 20-foot wood deck over Gorton Pond. Date of receipt 3/4/2025, 65 days to render decision. Okay, so that's today. Hi.
Is everyone ready? Okay. My name is Jim Bernardo, I'm a land surveyor in Waterford, and I'm here tonight representing Sid Kalita. He's the buyer of this piece of property at 78 Flanders Road. The plan that I have on the board here in front of you is the same thing that you're looking at. I just added some color to it, thought it might be easier to follow. The red line that I've highlighted here are the inland wetlands that were delineated, and the two blue lines are the flood zones, and I'll get to those as I make my presentation. So this property is in the dual designation of the RU 40/20 zone district. It was originally conveyed in December of 1934, so it's been around for quite some time, roughly 90 years. There's a single family house to both the north and the south, then Flanders Road on the east, and obviously it's bounded by Gorton Pond on the west. It's approximately 11,000 square feet. It's served by municipal water and sewer. The wetlands were flagged in the field by Joe Thoreau, certified soil scientist. I don't know that Joe has done a lot of work in front of this board, so I did bring a copy of Joe's resume if you want to just put that on the record. Joe is actually the wetlands enforcement officer for many towns up in the northwest corner of the state. Voluntown, I believe, is one of them, and Sprague, maybe. I can't remember the other towns, but it's all listed there on his resume. The property is subject to a drainage easement from the state, which was conveyed in late 1961. There's a couple of catch basins here. There's a drainage pipe that comes down to a concrete head and all discharges out onto overland to Gorton Pond here along the southerly portion of the property. The RU 40/20 setbacks would require a front yard setback of 40 feet and 20 feet from any other property line. You're allowed to use a little bit less restrictive setbacks because it was formerly in the R20 zone. However, there's a section in the zoning regulations, 20.15, which requires a minimum 25-foot setback from any water body. So that would be a rear yard setback from Gorton Pond. Also in your zoning regs, there's a provision in 20.6 which allows us to average the setbacks from 3 or more houses within 750 feet. That calculation is shown in note number 11 over on the plan. So what we've done is we've taken a look at some of the houses within 750 feet. We've averaged those. We've been able to pull the front yard setback. So what would normally be a 40-yard setback in the zone, we've actually been able to reduce that front yard setback to 20 feet. So that actually pulls us further away from Gorton Pond and provides us with a little bit more of a buffer and a little bit more room to work with on the property. There are 3 flood zones on the property. The AE elevation 27.6 is up to this first blue line that I've shown here. So this side is obviously on the pond side, it's the AE zone. This area in here between these 2 blue lines here is zone X to 0.2%, and then this is the zone X outside the special flood hazard area. The house is not located within a special flood hazard zone. The applicant wants to build 850 square foot footprint. It's 2 stories, so it'll be about 1,700 square feet. It's going to be a single family house. It's going to be elevated on piles, likely helical piles. He wants to leave the underside of it open where he can use it for storage for kayaks and bikes and things like that. It will be underneath the building. There's going to be a 10-foot wood deck on the water side, so this box here is the building, and then a deck overlooking the water. One thing we considered when we were doing this was originally he wanted these stairs to come right straight down off the porch, and I said if we turn them, we can provide a little bit more buffer from the wetlands, and you're not walking to the bottom of the stairs right at the edge of the pond. So by turning them, we're able to pull the activity a little further away from the edge of the pond with that. In addition, he's spoken with the neighbors here. He has a verbal agreement. This is the neighbor's driveway that comes down, which encroaches. This is pavement here. They're currently parking in here. This is a retired town public works employee, actually Damon Thomas, an old friend of mine. So he's made an arrangement with them to share their driveway and just put a little extension here so he has room to park and they have room to park. Again, that'll eliminate some impervious area on the property and also eliminates another driveway permit from the DOT because this is as you know, Flanders Road's a state road. In addition, he's looking to build a 20 by 20 wood deck on the pond. We've shown that here. This will be a floating deck. It'll be removed in the winter up until, it's quite interesting, up until about a week ago there was guys out there ice fishing. Now you go, there's not a stitch of ice on it. So, you know, we do know it freezes and this happened to be one of those years. So he does want to put a floating deck out there so he can enjoy the water and he'll pull it out during the winter months because of the ice that's on there. That'll be anchored down with pipes driven into the, driven into the bottom of the pond, and he'll be able to pull those out and remove the pond and bring it up on shore during the off season. Disturbance on the property is less than a half an acre, therefore, a certified soil and erosion control plan is not required. Total disturbance is about 2/10 of an acre. However, we have added silt fence at the limit of the activity across the back of the property to protect any erosion from going into the pond. As you can see, again, the deck is so that you can enjoy that water resource. The house is, very small house, 800 square foot footprint. We considered some of the alternatives by reducing the front yard setback, which is allowed by zoning. We've been able to pull that house a little forward, get it away from the pond. He's sharing the driveway with the neighbor to help minimize impervious surface and the impact in the upland review area. He's turned the stairs on the deck to try to accommodate a little more setback from the wetlands. So we have looked at alternatives. These are some of the ideas that, as always happens, these guys give you these great ideas, and I look at them and say, hey, we can do these things to minimize the impact, and he was very receptive to doing these things. So we've tried to minimize the impact in the upland review area. As I said, it is an existing lot. It's been in existence for almost 90 years, and it's served by water and sewer. And we feel we have no activity other than the deck and the wetlands. Everything else is in the upland review area. We feel we've minimized and mitigated any impacts to the wetlands.
So is the property wooded currently?
There's some trees on there.
There's no dwelling though?
No, there's no dwelling. It's a vacant lot, yes. Okay. I do show all the trees that are out there. They get kind of lost with everything else that's going on, but there are some mature trees on the property.
Does he own part of Gordon Pond?
No, he only owns to the edge of Gordon Pond.
So how can he put a wood deck on the pond if it's not his ownership?
That's an interesting question. I've talked with staff about it. It's our understanding that's actually owned by the state. So they do allow the ponds to be put on there. He'll have to consult with the DEP to get permission to do it, but the pond will be just something temporary. The neighbor actually to the south has something very similar that they put out in the summertime. So there are other people on the pond that do that and remove them for the winter.
So we really can't approve something until the state comes in and says, yes, you can do it, right?
Well, you could demonstrate that you have permission from the state to make the application. I think that would be sufficient, but the state is typically going to say the local agency needs to act before they take action. Because we can't predicate our decisions based on whether the state will or will not approve something. So they're going to want to know, does the local agency approve of this? If so, then they'll either approve or deny it.
So
But if the commission wasn't comfortable with this, and you'd say you denied the application because of it, well then, Deep would know that, okay, well, you denied it, so the local agency doesn't want it. We can't go any further, so it kind of helps them out in terms of workload, right?
Thinking there must be some significant difference between a fixed deck that's there forever and a floating deck.
A floating deck, dock. I don't like the term deck because it's a dock. Docks float, and anyhow.
Yeah, it's really a dock.
So,
20.
yeah, I would say how that's secured. I remember from permits and applications in the past, particularly over in Green Valley Lakes area. They had a floating dock there, and of concern was how it was going to be anchored on the water side. So they came up with some solutions, and there's a number of different ways. I think they tethered this thing to the land.
They did. So they
And-
said it was ultimately considered a vessel, actually, but it was only tethered to their property. On the shore
On the
that
shore.
they owned.
That they own, right? So,
Would they have anchors coming back to the shore, and like diagonal anchors to keep it from shifting?
no, I have to look at the application. I can't remember how they had it. I don't think they had. I don't know if they were going to put something on the end, like a mushroom anchor, just like an anchor, just to hold it in place while she fished or whatever they did out there. But it was removable, and they're able to bring it ashore. I think in that particular application, she had ownership of the portion of the pond and the wetlands. I think that's because I know with if I can speak frank, Ms. Chantel's personal property, it was an issue with
Throw that out there.
ownership. Well, I mean,
No,
it's
that's
pertinent
true.
to the
Didn't know it either.
application.
Because you don't own the water, but you own the land underneath the water. We learned that the hard way. So you can't put
Right.
something
Right.
attached to the ground that you don't own.
Correct. So I think being clear here, now you're the land surveyor, so you can maybe clarify this for us. If you're the
I
property
don't
line
believe they
is-
have any riparian rights into the pond itself. Not that I've found anywhere.
So, all right, so they don't have any of those rights. But if DEP was to authorize it, right, you have to pursue. So I think probably something from DEP saying, yeah, they can put docks out there. We're okay with that, provided the local agency issues a permit.
We'll do DEP first and then come back. If that's going to be a sticking point, the owner has told me he will withdraw that request from this commission. He's running short of time on his due diligence for this, so if it's going to be something that going to be a stumbling block and it's going to drag out and we have to go to DEP first, he will remove that from his request to this commission and just see if he can get, he'll come back later if he does get that approval from the state, but he's running out of time to
Yeah, because I
purchase
think we just want
property,
to
so.
caution approving, because this says a new wood deck, which would lead us to believe that, like, without the details of how it's going to be attached, we don't want to approve something that's not on his property. You know what
Okay,
I'm
no, I
saying?
understand.
Yeah,
That-
it would be more palatable if you said a wooden dock, a removable wooden dock. As
Well, we
opposed
can,
to a
we can
deck.
certainly change that wording in the application and on the permit if that's the way the commission decides to move on this.
I think we do need to site walk this property as well.
You can if you want to take a look at it.
drive
That's-
by.
You essentially, you need to determine whether or not it needs a public hearing. And if it doesn't, you have 65 days to render a decision. So today would be the date of receipt. So that would, I don't know if that's enough time to get a response back from
Yeah,
DEP,
that'll give me some time to work
regarding
on
the
it.
dock.
I would suggest if you're gonna go there to limit the amount of cars, because other than down
Yeah.
the driveway, there's no place to park.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
I think my only comment would be that, maybe that they secure an easement for that parking area and the driveway, because otherwise I would think you'd have to show a driveway cut to the house. I mean, I don't know how zoning would.
If the next landowner next door is like, you can't use my driveway anymore,
Right.
he's in a tough
So
spot.
then you're gonna be back in saying, I need a driveway cut. But that, and my other, the state drainage that comes down, just, I mean, I'd be interested in the outlet, make sure that that's, you know, I know that's the state's responsibility. But if we're, you know, they're gonna open up the lot, then maybe if it needs a little TLC, the state could go in there and fix it up, but short of that, I don't really see, you know, it's an existing building lot of record. I don't have any other comments other than the access. And then we'll figure out the ownership on the dock issue with DEP.
So today we need to determine if this warrants a public hearing or not.
Correct.
So neighbors were notified and,
Yeah, it's not like that side of the pond is not developed. It's
yeah,
just like
right.
solid houses from one
I
end
mean,
to the other.
the neighbor's working with them to share the driveway,
Right,
so.
right. It's not like he's asking for a new cut onto the road, so it's not like it's gonna influence traffic any more than it's already.
But even if he were, I mean, that would be a zoning matter. I mean, for us, I think, you know, is he filling the wetlands, the pond, or is he all the drainage? You know, where's that? Is that sheet falling all off into the pond, and how's that being accommodated?
Yeah, it's just sheet flow, same way it does now, across the property and down to the pond.
So would there be any chance to, you know, I don't know, capture some of that and infiltrate it before it hits the pond, or do you think the
Yeah,
sheet flow is sufficient?
is it gonna be, it's hard to tell too, is it gonna be clear to the pond, or is there gonna be a buffer to?
I'm sure it's going to be clear, just like everybody else has it. They've got
Lawn.
they've got lawn right down to the edge of the pond there.
Yeah.
Well, I think then, you know, there's an opportunity to mitigate that lawn right up to the pond and require some buffer plantings along the edge of the pond before the,
Especially where that outfall is, right?
well, that hopefully is, got existing vegetation is protected. There's 2 trees there, 3 in that vicinity, so I think it's probably pretty well vegetated.
And those will
Where
remain.
the
State
state's
outlet?
drainage
Yeah.
outlet is, there's some gully erosion through there. They didn't do a very good job of remediating any kind of, or mitigating any kind of erosive velocities coming out of there. But my guess is the slope is pretty low, so
Yeah,
it's
it
not
doesn't
coming
look-
out with much velocity.
Doesn't look super steep, but
And those plantings are all staying there.
I'm sorry?
Those plantings are all staying there where the
Yeah, those
outfall
trees.
is, the trees.
Yeah, he's not disturbing anything in that area over there where the drainage is.
So would there be any concern though if that is a removable deck or dock, whatever we want to call it, that damage caused by removing a dock and putting it in and out?
In and out. I think you would probably ask them for maybe a operations and maintenance plan
Okay.
that would cover that and address it. Like,
No.
this is how we're gonna take it in and out.
Because otherwise it could just be pulled out with a truck and dragged across. And
Right. Hopefully, you know, if they want any longevity out of their dock, they won't do that to begin with. But, yeah, I mean, again, depending on access, you know, I could easily see with that driveway, that would be easy. You could pull it out, you know, float it down to the edge, and then. Not a bad idea, though. Put it on rollers or something, some logs to roll it up. But yeah, you could maybe, you know, if DEP is, if we can get confirmation from them that
Okay, yeah, I'll work on that.
permissible, then I would say plan on addressing those questions and concerns, like how are we gonna get this thing in and out, how we're going to stabilize it in the water. Any other thoughts on the dock specifically?
I think we should uncouple the two. I think we should vote on the house and the lot. Wait on the dock till he finds out what's going on with DEP.
Well, he has a month to do that. We can't vote on this anyway tonight because it has to remain on the agenda for 15 days.
Yeah, and we gotta
So-
review all these plans
Yeah, at
and
least
stuff too.
this at least gets kicked to the next meeting. So if he could potentially get that accomplished in the next 30 days, then
I don't even know who to start talking to, but I'll talk to my buddy who's the DEP surveyor, so.
Yeah, starting there would be great. I would say maybe Darcy Winter, she runs up the Inland Water Resources program. I believe she's still involved with that.
So we don't need to vote on a public hearing, or do we?
You need to make a determination whether it needs one.
Okay.
So I would
If we,
either
if
ju-
we say no, then do we have to actually make a motion?
no,
Okay.
no, then you're just conceding to the fact that it does not require a public hearing. You can't come back next month, and
Yeah.
we just don't. You know, you have six. Well, could you come back next month? That's no, right? That would be
If he separates the deck. 35 days.
35 days. I guess, yeah, you theoretically, you could come back next month and be like, no, we're going to a public hearing.
We don't.
But you'd have to hold that public hearing before the next, probably before the next meeting.
Mhm.
I mean, you'd have to have a special meeting to probably fit it in,
Mhm.
unless the next meeting is exactly at day 65.
Yeah, I don't see any reason for a public hearing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
pu-
no, I mean, I just want to make sure we're crossing our.
It's public sewer and water, it's not septic, and it's, you know, an area that's similar to what's already going on that side of the pond.
Looks like the silt fence is your limited disturbance, short of the dock. Correct. So I think if, as far as the rest of the lot, if they're gonna want it, I would just recommend some buffer plantings, you know, anywhere from, I don't know, 5 to 10 feet, because you don't have a lot of room between the end of the deck and what might be actually, I mean, you could put plugs in the wetlands potentially, but again, without actually looking at what vegetation's there, whether it needs any of that, I don't even know. Maybe it's well vegetated and we don't, you know, it's not warranted. So
When would you schedule a site walk?
be the Saturday prior to the next meeting.
Almost that late, okay.
We could go earlier if the commission so chooses, but typically we try to schedule it that Saturday, because the Tuesday prior is usually, you could say, is the cutoff for applications. So if we got any applications that are being received, we would then be able to get them either into the site walk, potentially.
Okay.
to commission.
Well, I will talk with Joe Thoreau, see if he has any suggestions for some plantings and things like that.
If they're needed. Like, again, I don't know what the characteristics are there right now, so.
Yeah, that's why we usually have the site walk before, so we can see the property and just are familiar with it prior to seeing the application. 'Cause
And native planting. I just have a question as far as the dock goes. What's the material that would be used for it?
I'm sorry, what, the dock?
The material, the wood, what kind of?
Well, he wanted wood, but as I think about it, I think it might be too heavy to float in and out. So I think it'll be some kind of composite material or aluminum that's lighter where he'll be able to pull it out of the water. Unless he does it in pieces and bolts it
Yeah.
in and out.
does anyone have any other questions that we want to investigate before the next meeting? No. All right, I think
Okay.
we're
All right.
good. We'll see you next month.
All right, thank you. You'll let me know when what time did you do your site walks? Morning, afternoon?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, so next we have, under old business, inland wetlands and watercourse regulations.
So my update, Tim Bleasdale, as I said, is reviewing them, and because they are extensive changes, it's just taking him quite a long time to get through them all. As you heard, he's had his hands full with affordable housing and a number of things, but we are getting closer to, I guess, some sort of response from him.
So Mark didn't look at them?
Pardon?
Mark did not look at them.
Mark, I think, glanced at them.
So we're getting a thorough review at this point.
With Tim, I think he's just finally taking,
Yeah.
the whole thing over. And he has the time to review it. So I did discuss it with him, and he said, yeah, we'll hopefully by next month we should have something more concrete in terms of a response and what we should, some guidance as far as moving forward with them.
Okay.
What else? That's all I have on the regs.
Okay. So chairman's report. So I did want to mention, I'm very familiar with the East Lyme Little League, and the board members have been discussing the condition of Field 1, which is the first baseball field behind the middle school, which I'd mentioned before, is getting a lot of water flowing down the hill from where the bus garage is and destroying that field. So someone was going to come today to speak to that, but I know we mentioned before possibly we were talking about maybe putting a curb in to prevent the flow, or talking with the bus garage to upgrade their facility there because it's all packed down and the water's now just flowing down to the league fields and ruining the fields that they just updated. So it's almost Little League season. We want those fields playable.
Understood.
So if we could look into that.
I will look into that. I'll contact Chris Lund over at Board of Ed, see what we can't do, and maybe strike that conversation up again. I know I did mention it to Mr. Newton. And he said, "Yep, let's have a discussion." But that's been some time, so I think it's kind of gotten backburned a little bit. But yeah, I will reach out to them and see if we can't get some progress going on that. I'll also contact Jerry Loken, our Park and Rec director. I know I did in the past. I worked extensively with Dave Putnam down there on trying to resolve drainage issues and field maintenance concerns. So
And the Little League has spent a lot of money updating those fields.
in conjunction with
And
so
yeah,
agreed.
that falls outside of what they can do. So
Correct. And it's a challenge because it's on school property, and being that it's adjacent to a school, you can't use pesticides, fertilizers, and so the field maintenance is
Right.
a challenge. We made the argument that there was a road that separated the two parcels.
Yeah.
I don't know, somebody,
Sandbags and good, huh?
health
no,
department.
he's saying put sandbags along the road
But on the
to
other
direct
side,
the
other
water.
Side, yeah, the other side prevent it from going into the field.
So, and I can also talk to Joe Bragaw and see if we can't enlist the help of our town engineer in figuring out maybe a better solution. Maybe that's what we ought to do, is just go out there with town engineer and see if we can't solve that way.
Yeah.
Brainstorming out loud, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good because, like I said, there's been a lot of money spent on those fields that are raised by sponsorships and volunteers, and I'd hate to see that go to waste because the bus garage, which you know is a sore topic for me, is there at the top of the hill,
Correct.
ruining the baseball fields because it should be relocated. But that is my chairman's report. Yeah, so maybe if we could add that to the agenda so we can keep that, or at least for next month's agenda. I don't know if we could track that somewhere.
Under chairman's report.
Sure.
All right.
And if you ever need, I mean, the board is obviously very willing to work with the town in any way too, and if there's something they could do to help,
Right.
they're definitely willing.
Thank
Okay, inland wetlands agent report.
I think Mr. Lombardo had a question.
Yeah, I thought the buses were supposed to be moved to where the dump is.
I think we had some discussions if they could get relocated out there. I don't know that there's room currently.
Okay.
There's wetlands there too, right?
And there's wetlands and
Everywhere.
water courses all over that parcel as well. So that might be a tight area.
If I could just jump in for a minute. We did have a meeting of the capital improvement committee, and they are working, all the different groups, like Park and Rec, Board of Ed, everybody is working together Joe Gabau's group to try and figure out how to find housing for all the different buses and vehicles. So we're kind of trying to manage a big kind of overall plan. So it's in the works. I guess that's the best I can say at this point. If it goes through the budget, then it should be coming up in the next, hopefully in the next year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's definitely been something that's been discussed and everybody's been in on it, which is really good. So,
Yeah, it's needed.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But it's also needed for the other vehicles
Right.
too, because of maintenance and, you know, just increasing the longevity to have the vehicles housed.
So that's just a
inside.
plug for the budget.
So moving on is administrative and commission issued permits. There's none. Enforcement, the cease, correct, and restore order for Sound Cove land. This one is the one that has lots of discussion.
Yeah, so we had the gully erosion, we had Joe Wren before the agency, so obviously they didn't get to filling in that gully before things got cold and frozen. In my discussions with Joe, they've got things lined up. As soon as the weather really breaks, they're going to be able to get in there. And I said, well, it's getting warm. It's March now, and we've had a couple of warm days, even though the last two were chilly. A little warmer today, so he reached out and said he's going to contact that client and make sure that they're ready to go as soon as, probably within the next week or two. So I'm expecting that they'll be working on that coming up. As soon as I get a phone call that they've started, I will start doing routine inspections. I think they'll only be in there for a couple of days. So that's under a good eye. 8 Brookfield, I reached out to both the engineer and the applicant. Was unable to make contact with the applicant, but the engineer indicated that they're kind of at a little bit of a standstill because in order for them to move forward and demonstrate health code compliance, they need to be able to actually locate the well on the abutting lot. So that's what's got them held up. So just being able to say that's where it is doesn't work. Just pointing to the location. So I don't know if they'll ever be back. In my discussions with them, I said, well, the commission had contemplated requesting some shade trees be reestablished. So I said, well, you could pass that on to the applicant. I know the vegetation there is going to start revegetating, but they cut down the shade trees, so we kind of like to get that back up and over the brook, if we could, if they're not going to build on it. I don't know if I'll reach back out to him and see if he's successful with that, if they're willing to do that. If not, then I'll have to send them written correspondence to request the trees be reestablished. Still working with 9 Rocco Drive. I believe I've generated correspondence to them about revegetating it with eastern white pine, which I believe, and cedars, which were vegetation that was previously there. That being said, I'm not super worried about it. Again, similar to 8 Brookfield, there's vegetation. While he removed the canopy, the pines that were there didn't provide a lot of canopy like a maple or oak tree. So it wasn't like it was hanging out over the pond. But nonetheless, it's kind of like pulling teeth, getting a hold of these people and getting them to respond. So if I have to, I guess, press a little harder there, I'll try doing that. And we have to issue a order, then I'll issue an order on that. 137 Flanders Road. That's, again, I think most of you can see that as you drive by. It's, I think because of the weather, it's not vegetated. I was hoping he would get something down, at least winter rye, but that didn't happen. So it's just keeping an eye on it, making sure nothing sloughs off into that little drainage way, and that, hopefully the state is cleaning their catch basin regularly, once a year. And 249, I have not heard back from the engineer, Ed Wenke. So I suspect he's working on a plan. He did indicate that they would comply. The homeowner was into the office, so I was able to converse with them, and they indicated that they're working on a plan to put the wetland back. And was very apologetic for having ever filled it. I was unaware that they shouldn't have done that. So somewhere between the sale of the home, that got lost. Interesting. Little Indian Pond, there hasn't been much discussion on it. It's been on our agenda for quite some time, mainly because they were having issues with the Phragmites and the algae and the water quality there. So I really don't, and there's very little that this agency can actually do for them at this point, other than they need to maybe as a community move forward with an application, grant applications to DEEP for enhancements for the three property owners. I think the drainage outlet there is working properly. The town periodically cleans out the grate as needed, and I'm really not sure. The drainage there, since I've been in town working, it's always been kind of poor. I only saw it a brief time before the current pipe that's in there now was constructed. So I remember when it was a corrugated steel pipe, and you could cut your foot on the end of it up there on the beach. But even then, didn't drain well. So I'm not sure if we want to continue to leave this on the agenda, or
I think we can take it off.
and if it comes up as neighbors.
I think post this season, if there's an issue, they'll be back.
Okay.
So
So I'll remove
take it
that.
off.
And of course, what's not there is the enforcement action regarding Oswegatchie Hills, or rather 23 Calkins Road. So we did get some correspondence from Save the Sound, and I also provided a memo to the commission regarding my review, and after that meeting I began doing due diligence to ensure whether reissue a cease and desist order was appropriate and correct. Based on what the agency had issued back in 2017, looking at the minutes, short of pulling up the video, which I don't think we had back, maybe we did. I don't think we had the video necessarily back then, but we would have had the recording, so we probably still do. But short of that, looking at the minutes that were posted, and I did quote a few things that Attorney Dubicki stated, they never intended to limit the acreage. He said they would start with 5 acres and go from there depending on how it goes. That being said, I did speak to Mr. Russo today. So at the end of the day, I'll get back to that. At the end of the day, I don't believe that Mr. Russo is in violation of the exemption. Primarily because he's clearing to create pasture, which is an exempt agricultural use.
Pasture? But it's not, wasn't it
Per-
a
he's
tree
got-
farm?
That's what he's going to plant. He needs to create a pasture first to plant the trees, or at least a pasture land. So in order to do that, he's got to clear the acreage, remove the slash, and then prep all the land.
So how long was that application good for?
It's an exempt activity. It's no longer.
So forever?
Yes. There's no time limit on it. I mean, when you determine that an activity is exempt, it's exempt, and it's specific in the statutes and the regulations that agricultural uses are exempt.
And there's no clearing limitations to agricultural use.
Not for a crop, and he's going to be growing trees. So, well, we made that exemption in 2017. I mean, he only recently got started. So I would note that, it's not going to happen overnight. But he's already talking to some farmers about establishing cattle on the land to help maintain the open area. So, things like that are being contemplated in order to continue to float the property. As
So he
my
didn't
guess.
say 5 acres. That was
No, he said we're going to start with the 5 acres and go to the 200 plus, 230, I think. So that being said, I did make contact with Mr. Russo and spoke to him today. He indicated that the piles of slash are piles of slash because he has to remove them in order to get the land tillable. Not that he's going to till it. I believe the tilling practices are, I think, kind of a way of the past, but not sure. I'm not a tree farmer. So I don't, I think based on the aerial footage that we saw, again, it's too far away from the site to actually determine whether or not there's stumping occurring. Mr. Russo indicated there is no stumping occurring. That was specific in our explanation to the town, that we wouldn't be stumping. He goes, eventually we're going to come in and have to remove the stumps. He goes, but this is not a forest, and he also reminded me it's not a forestry operation. It's an agricultural operation for a crop. So that does, make regulating it a bit more difficult. That being said, as an agricultural use, though, it's exempt under the statute, so you don't have to worry about regulating it. I did ask him for an inspection. He is out of the state at the moment. He said that when I get back into the state, probably somewhere around April, he'll call me up and schedule an inspection. So with that, I don't know that I really have any other just cause to go out there, other than the community is concerned about what's occurring. I would note that the land 200 years ago was cleared down to the stone walls, so it's not anything different than the site has ever seen historically. Granted, it was 200 years ago, but so I think his intent is to move forward with an agricultural operation. We've issued permits for 2 barns, and he's relied on that, I think, in moving forward. As far as evidence, as far as the farming operation is concerned, his comment was, well, the piles of slash. If I was a forestry operation, I would have left them where they fell. That's what foresters do. But this is an agricultural operation. We need to pile them, and I need to remove them. He goes, I can burn them, or I can haul them out, or we can chip them. So he's got 3 different means of, I guess, disposal that he can pursue. He obviously wants to pursue the cheapest one, but there's a cost to each currently. So he's working on that right as we speak. I don't really have anything else to say. I think my memo is pretty comprehensive. I've also included the email that Attorney Bleasdale sent to me, because I asked him to weigh in on this as well, being that the commission had given me direction to move forward with the cease and desist order. And Attorney Bleasdale concurred, in my opinion, with, I think, based on the circumstances and the facts. Although if, upon a site inspection, that revealed that there were violations occurring, well, then obviously the circumstances would be different, and then we could have some just cause for issuing a cease and desist order. So if anyone has any questions, I hope that answers most, but
So who's going to respond to the Save the Sound?
I responded to them Friday indicating I had not yet read their memo, but that I had posted a memo that they could read on the town website regarding the matter.
Because I know yours is 2 days before theirs, so
Correct.
I thought yours was in response.
I think theirs may have been a response to mine, but again, who knows? I don't know. Theirs is dated February 28th, mine's the 26th, so I hard to say. But again, I think based on, after having read theirs, they're basically just saying, be mindful whether or not they may or may not be in violation. Again, how the verbiage that is used, the clear cutting on this scale drastically increases the property surface runoff, no doubt. But again, if it's agricultural operation, it's exempt. But I do think even then, the farmer is still responsible for runoff. He still doesn't want material ending up in the Nyack River. Not to mention he's trying to grow trees. He needs to protect and conserve his soil.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, he's the first person who's going to be mindful of erosion and sedimentation because he wants to protect every ounce of it, especially on Oswegatchie Hills, which is geologically a rock. Ideally, it's not probably the best location for maybe farming, but having walked it, once you get up there, it flattens out. And I can see it being ideal, because there is such a flat plateau at the top. So that might be, I would also note that there's a farm, apparently has a name. It's called River Valley Farm. There's a sign at the end, I think, Calkins Road. And he wanted to clarify that the terms selective cutting that was used in the minutes by Attorney Dubicki was referencing being selective to sections of the property, not species of tree, where a forestry operation would be selective of the tree species versus just areas of the property. He also indicated there's approximately 100 acres clear. I had a pretty good estimate.
Yeah.
And he also, again, as I said, he said he hasn't started stumping. So that's where things stand with Mr. Russo in the matter, at least with my office. I also discussed it with the first selectman, so he's aware. We're going to continue to, monitor it from afar, but we'll keep an eye on it. Just, again, there's a lot of land that's open. And again, the landowners in Florida, who's looking at it? Hopefully the forester that's out there, right? Not the forester, whoever he hired to clear the timber harvester, whoever it may be. That said, the clarification between the agricultural use and the farming versus forestry, the required licensure that's needed to do the clearing is a lot different. So forestry operations require licensed individuals, and I think that's mainly because you're being selective in your tree species and you're cutting at a certain stance. But that said, that's not required in agricultural operations. You can also clear inland wetlands in agricultural for crop. So just keep those things in mind. We have agricultural operations all over town, and so far so good. I haven't had any known violations, minor, except for one that was historical. It actually it had to do with the filling of a pond, because they wanted to widen the dam to get the tractor across, and we had some property ownership issues with that one as well. So that was the only agricultural violation that I don't know that the filling of that area was directly related to the farming operation, although it could have been argued that. I don't. Ultimately, I think we had them remove the material and recommended that they could take their tractor and just straight across the wetland further north. That the farmer's response was that the wetland in that location was so mucky, he'd have to fill it. It's kind of a catch-22. So thankfully, that they had an easement to go down the road and down the neighbor's driveway to access the same. So I think that's what's done now. So it's not as efficient. So there's a cost to that for the business. But it's what it is, and they're able to navigate the wetland, I guess. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for looking into that. I mean, obviously there's concern from the town and the neighbors, and it's good to keep an eye on it. So
Yeah.
it looks like it falls under the agricultural use.
So we'll continue to, monitor the situation. I'll continue to work with the landowner, and go forward from there and see what transpires, and maybe they'll establish a dairy farm. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's what we asked, is proof that they were going to actually use that property for agricultural use, and it sounds like they are.
Well, that's the current use now. At this point, I don't have any reason to think that they're looking to develop it at the same time. But I think the development of it is currently agricultural. Again, know that there is an approval out there for 800 units, right? That got remanded back. Now he has to come up with the plans, and ball's been in his court to put the design plans together for those units.
But as far as the town's concerned, he's not clearing for those units, he's clearing for agricultural use.
Correct.
So that's where we stand.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Anyone have any questions about that? I know Greg, you fielded some questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just, you just walk away with a feeling that we're being played, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
so
the
much we can do.
that's the frustration. Is,
Yeah.
You knew that there was this plan.
Right.
Now you're changing gears and you clear 200 acres, 100 acres, and your plan is still to clear more. What is, it's your end game. But again, to have a 200 acre plus farm, that's impressive. I have done some research on farms, and there's not many between 50 and 100 acres available. So there's a couple. Over that, there's even less. So, there's some big ones out there that greater than 500 acres. I can't put a number on that, but that are for sale. So I know there's some up in Mansfield right now. There's a dairy farm. So if somebody's wanting to put cattle, I don't know that there's an existing dairy farm that's you could take advantage of, type of thing. So looking at the market, I don't know. He's going to do dairy farming, but
So for zoning though, because they're clearing for agricultural use, does that deem the property an agricultural property?
well,
I mean,
no,
like for selling things, like if if
could you get a farm stand? Yeah.
no, I mean for the value of the property.
Oh, so how would you market it? 200 acres. I got here's my one approval for residential development, conceptual kind of a thing, even though it's, I appealed it, but he's got this, approval, and then you can say, I've also cleared it. You can use it agriculturally. It has more use. It's more, so it's not encumbered or restricted by easements or any conservation easements or drainage easements or anything like that. So it's raw land zoned residential. That's really the
That's
limitation.
what I'm asking. Yeah, it's
So the limitation is the zoning. Residential uses, agricultural uses are allowed within the zone. So I would look at that as far as the zoning district and what permitted uses are allowed.
So how's the taxation now? Because otherwise, that would be considered, agriculture would be a farm.
Yeah.
So the taxes on a farm property are less than what they would be.
Yeah, I guess
on a
that's what I
regular-
was getting at.
Correct. I'd have to check with Diane, but I believe he would be benefiting from that designation.
Because of taxes.
Yeah.
But doesn't it have to stay that way for a certain period of time?
Yeah, it doesn't. That's what I'm wondering. Like, does that
It
devalue
on-
the property?
Only if you put your land into PA 490 A, which is the Public Act 490, Section A, which is for agricultural uses. That's like a 20-year designation, and you get a significant tax break. You do tie it up for 20 years. So if you withdraw it from the program, then you're going to pay a penalty, and but you can. It's it's okay. I don't believe he's involved with any of that. So I'm not exactly sure how she makes that calculation, but it's different. But if a property is in PA 490, it's different than how she would evaluate it. I think what she takes is like you get 2 acres or whatever the underlying zone. That's a building lot, so you're going to tax you for that in a building lot plus the remaining acreage is excess, and it's a lesser rate. I don't think it's the same as the PA 490 rate, but
Okay.
I can find that out if you like. I'm interested.
Curiosity. Okay. You also have in here the bridge replacement in Old Lyme.
Oh, sorry. Yes, just to inform you, we received correspondence from Connecticut Deep that they've taken some action on the bridge replacement, and it looks like that can now maybe go forward.
Aren't they replacing that bridge too on Fairhaven?
We are. That's the town.
The town's doing that.
That's the town. Yeah.
Okay. Did we see that already?
I want to say I want to say Bill
I
Shear.
feel like maybe we did.
We saw something for some temporary work, I think.
Oh.
I think they're going to come back when they do the full, or maybe I can double check tomorrow. But I think it was temporary because
Mhm.
you got kind of that barrier right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was for that, is what we permitted.
So this one, they're gonna relocate the bridge and then replace it, so temporary.
Yeah, this is, it's my understanding. So they're
That's all
work-
Title II, there's no, oh wait, no, 4 Mile River is right
4 Mile
there.
River, yeah, correct. Looks like their work is through June 1st through September 30th. There's in-water work restrictions from March 15th through May 30th. So there's quite a bit in here, but
Mhm.
you can take a read through, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them, and I can inquire with Keith if necessary.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything? No? On that note, there motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everyone, okay, thank you.